A grey October morning at Manchester Airport as we prepare to board the first leg of our KLM flight via Amsterdam to Nice. It's quite a short transfer by coach to Monaco, where we board Marina. Then overnight we sail to Genoa. Our first port of call should have been Portofino, but bad weather would have meant tendering was dangerous. Genoa claims to be the birthplace of Christopher Columbus, and he certainly grew up here. The cruise terminal building dates from 1930, the great age of the Grand Ocean liners. From here, we picked up an open-top bus tour of the main sights of Genoa. This is the Piazza dei Ferrari. That's the former ducal palace, the remains of an 11th century monastic cloister. The Opera House, rebuilt following World War II. The Roman-style Victory Arch dates from 1931. Via 20 Settembre is Genoa's smartest shopping street. The Porta Soprana, one of the old city gates. We're now approaching the old harbour, where we have the opportunity to get off the bus and explore. The Palace of St. George dates from 1260. The restored warehouses include cafes, restaurants and bars, and a remarkable food store called Italy, which has its own cafe and restaurants. Across the harbour we can see Marina. And over there is the aquarium. The replica galleon was used in a Roman Polanski film. Time to head back to Marina now, which overnight sails down to Livorno. This is the port for Florence and Pisa, but we've got no intention of doing anything so strenuous on this cruise. We take the shuttle into the city centre, have a little look around, and buy some smart Italian designed spectacle frames. Overnight, Marina sails for Civitavecchia. Celebrities Eclipse and Silhouette are in ahead of us. Seven Seas Voyager, Island Escape and Queen Victoria are also in with us today. We take the shuttle to the port gate and stroll through the town centre. The great fortress of Civitavecchia was completed in 1535 by Michelangelo. Down on the waterfront, sailors from a Chinese warship that's in port. We just enjoy the sunshine and stop for a coffee break. Rather than get the shuttle bus back, we decide to walk through the port from the entrance by the fortress. This turns out to take quite a bit longer than we'd anticipated. Overnight, Marina takes us down to the Bay of Naples and Sorrento. We tender across to the small harbour and then take the minibus up to Tasso Square. We head off for a stroll through the town. It's Sunday morning, but most of the shops seem to be open. We reach the viewpoint at Piazza della Vittoria, from where we can see not only Marina, but Royal Clipper on its way in. We continue our stroll, heading for our usual haunt at the Foreigners Club. This has got one of the best views over the Bay of Naples. After free internet and coffee, we head back through the narrow streets of the old town. Back on board, and the view of the Bay of Naples from our balcony, with Vesuvius in the background. We now have a full day at sea before we arrive in Palma de Mallorca. We're berthed in a remote part of the harbour. We take the free shuttle bus into central Palma. We have to cross the amazingly busy main road to get to the cathedral area, and Margaret and John got stranded halfway. Palma's enormous cathedral was completed in 1346. After our coffee and Wi-Fi break, we strolled through the old town. We found this small garden. And not far away, the Arab baths, which now cost €2.50 to enter. Dating from the 10th century, this is the only remaining Moorish building in Palma. We leave the narrow alleyways of the old town to the area in front of the cathedral, overlooking the Parc della Mar. We got a taxi back to the ship in time for lunch, and in the early evening Marina set sail overnight to Sète in France. Sète is practically surrounded by water and is served by a number of canals. A shuttle takes us to the dock gates, and from there we stroll into the town centre. It was market day, so the town was very busy. Sète was founded in the 17th century. The canals, lined with restaurants and bars, make a very attractive feature. Overnight, Marina sails for Saint-Tropez. This is another tender port, and the tenders bring us to the new port, but the interesting bits are around the old harbour, so we walk there. Once a sleepy fishing port, in the 20th century, Saint-Tropez became the glamorous haunt of the rich and famous. Bluebird of 1938 was built as a private yacht for Sir Malcolm Campbell. Before he could make much use of it, war broke out and she was requisitioned. She took part in the Dunkirk evacuation. You can charter this yacht if you've got enough money. Saint-Tropez has some very expensive shops, and the day after we were there, the Grande Braderie, the main sales event of the year, was about to take place. Some people were disappointed to miss this. Part of the old fortifications of the town. The Place des Lys, where open-air markets are held. We were back on board for lunch, although Marina didn't sail until 10 p.m. for the short overnight hop to Marseille. Marina berths in the new port, and a shuttle takes us to the old port. A tourist train takes us to the viewpoint at the Basilica of Notre-Dame de la Garde. In front of us is Chateau d'If, which features in the Count of Monte Cristo. You can see the old port laid out in front of us now. The new port. The basilica itself is a neo-Byzantine construction of the middle of the 19th century. Time to rejoin the train and head back down to the old port. The town hall was built in the 17th century. We had lunch in one of the dockside restaurants, and then it was back on board to finish packing, and the ship sails overnight for our disembarkation in Barcelona.